Yes, purpose.
I really want to say that I had that timed perfectly to end right at 10 o'clock, but it was just sheer luck. It is 10 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. We want to welcome you all to our Q2 Huddle YCSD hybrid teaching panel. I know how busy Wednesdays are, especially, and we want to thank you all for giving up an hour of your day to hear from some of your colleagues here in YCSD who are making this hybrid teaching experience work.
All right, I just want to go over some of our game day rules, some flags that might be called on the play. Yes, we're being a little extra cheesy with the theme today. First things first, as you've noticed, the chat is going to remain closed. We are collecting comments and questions in a form. We just want to make sure that you are able to focus on the panelists and the panelists are able to focus on what they're sharing with you. Lori and I will be monitoring the form throughout today's conversation. And so we will try to bring things up if possible, but if not, there will be follow-up with your IIC or your building level admin as much as possible. We do ask that you turn off your camera and mute your mic just again so we can stay focused. Our panelists are going to have the cameras on so you can see that they are real live teachers, just like I'm a real life IIC currently in my office at Grafton. And also, we just want to be upfront with you that everything we're sharing today are just ideas, that this is brand new for our division, brand new for education in general, really. And we are just sharing what these amazing 6th grade teachers have just gotten started with. And we know that sharing ideas, they change, they grow. Something that worked the first 2 weeks might change and be adapted later on. So this is just to give you something to think about, to ponder as we prepare to bring secondary grade levels into the hybrid model.
So our purpose for today is really to just acknowledge that this is hard. We are by nature a little overly peppy sometimes, Steph and I. When she said, you know, we're a little extra with the theme. If you know us in real life, you know we're a little extra in just about everything. But this is hard. We are not trying to downplay that at all. This is absolutely probably one of the hardest things that educators have ever had to adapt to. But really what we're trying to accomplish here is to show you that it is working. We want to share experiences and solutions for some of the questions and the worries that you might have. And we know that a lot of the anxiety around the idea of hybrid teaching is really the unknown. You don't know what to expect. You didn't know truly what to expect when we came back in September, all virtual, and now you are, you know, feeling much more comfortable. So we want to just make sure that we can collaborate. You can hear from teachers who are making it work, and hopefully some of that unknown will start to relieve some of your anxieties. So as we get started on this, we just want to, I really liked this quote. Really, our purpose today is focus on the opportunities and the possibilities. If you are only focused on the problems and the worries and the hard part of this, that's all you're going to see. So we hope that by the end of this, you could take away some of the positives and the opportunities that will exist in this hybrid teaching scenario.
For sure. It's all about perspective, and you'll see that our panelists even share how their perspective changed so quickly. We wanted to go ahead and introduce you to the team today. We are thankful to our general manager, Miss Anthony, the principal of Grafton Middle School, for leading this effort and allowing us to get rolling with it. She thought it was really powerful to teachers hear from other teachers. That's who we know, God's honest truth is going to come from. No sugarcoating, right? Teachers talking to teachers. It is a thrill to work with my partner in crime, Lori Donatelli. I am the IIC at Grafton High School, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Steph. Yes, I'm the IIC at Grafton Middle, York Middle, and York River Academy. And we are so excited to put this together. We did have to give a big shout out to our general manager. She popped her camera on for just a quick second. Miss Anthony, who this was really her brainchild, and she brought it to Steph and I and said, hey, can you make this happen? And again, those who know us know we're a little extra, and that's exactly what we did. But a big shout out to her, because keeping up with the two of us and making sure we don't go rogue is never an easy task. This is, I don't know that Steph, if you said this is both our second year in the position. If you count the pandemic like dog years, this is probably our 73rd year of being an IIC. It feels like it at least, but we are both relatively new to the IIC world, and it has been a wonderful experience. Let's go ahead and introduce you to the team, our panel for today. We have a wide variety of teachers. We really wanted to make sure that we weren't just bringing you veteran teachers or brand new who are, tech heavy users that are all about it. We wanted to make sure we give you a wide variety of perspectives. So let's go right down the county. We'll start at Tab Middle. Miss Allison, Miss Amy, if you girls want to share your, like a little bit about you, how long you've been teaching, what you teach, just so we can get an idea, and go ahead and turn your camera on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amy Widener, and this is my second year at middle school level. I previously was at Tab Elementary, and I taught 5th grade for 20 years. So altogether, this is my 23rd year of teaching, and I teach FOA 6 at Tab Middle and love it.
Good morning, I'm Allison Stein, and this is also my second year at Tab Middle School, and also my second year in York County schools in general. I teach special education, and I do inclusion 6th grade English, and have just a wide variety of experiences. This is about my 16th year teaching, but I've enjoyed Tab very much.
Thank you both for joining us from Tiger Country. All right, we're going to move up Route 17. Where are my clippers at? Mr. Dodge, Miss Lee, Miss Williams, turn your cameras on and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, I'm Mr. Dodge. I am a teacher at Grafton Middle School. I teach 6th grade history at Grafton Middle School. I've been in teaching for 14 years. I've been at the high school level as well as middle school level. I've been at the middle school level for 10 years and 4 years at the high school level.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Miss Lee, would you like to share?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Andrea Lee. I am a science teacher at Grafton Middle School. Excuse me, still going through adolescence, apparently, as my voice is changing as we speak. This is my 19th year in education, and most of those years have been at Grafton. Did have the honor of working at York Middle 1 year. I'm excited to be with you guys, and I'm looking to see, Lori and Stephanie, when you guys are going to throw a Packer on this NFL-themed presentation. We're going to see about that.
Miss Lee, I love you with all of my heart, but you're lucky this is not a black and gold theme.
Oh my goodness. All
Have
And
a
my
right.
Halloween
firstborn's
playlist.
named Eli for the Giants, so no
Oh,
Packers
gosh.
here.
Okay. It's going to be a long hour, y'all. Just kidding.
Miss
It's gonna
Williams,
be
are you
great.
with us?
I got my pencil ready, excited to learn with you.
My name is Nellie Williams. This is my 28th year teaching. I teach English at Grafton Middle School. I know nothing about football, so I have no idea what you guys were just talking about. But I am glad to be here.
Thank you. All right, we are still cruising through the county. We're headed up to YMS. Mr. Frazier and Mr. Schneider, can you give us a little intro?
Hey guys, I'm Mr. Schneider. This is my 10th year teaching overall, second year at Yorktown Middle School. And if this is a football team, I'm definitely on the scout team. I have enough tech experience to scrape and scrap and struggle and use a lot of grit to try to get by. But like Miss Lee said, I have my pencil ready and I have some good tips that I've learned, and I'll do what I can to help. So looking forward to working with you guys.
Mr. Schneider is selling himself a little short. He is really not just scraping by. He's doing a great job. Welcome, Mr. Schneider. Mr. Frazier, would you like to introduce yourself? All right, we're gonna move on. I don't see him. I think he got dropped out. So headed up to the northern end of the county, Queens Lake, last but certainly not least. Mr. Cole, Ms. Barnes, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Cole. I teach History 1 and History 2, 6th and 7th grade history at Queens Lake Middle School. This is my second year in the division, but 25th year as a teacher. Most of my career was Williamsburg, James City County at the elementary level, Matthew Whaley. But happy to be here, and hopefully I can share some tips with you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Barnes.
Well, it wouldn't be a presentation about hybrid learning if there wasn't some tech issues.
OMG. There we go. There we go. See, everyone does it.
We're so glad you're here, Miss Barnes.
If it had to be somebody, it would have to be me. Again, my name is Mrs. Barnes. I'm at Queens Lake Middle School. This is my 7th year. I am a special ed teacher. I focus in 6th grade math, and I am so happy to be here to help with the hybrid learning environment.
I really thought that Miss Lee was going to take the cake for best background, but then Miss Barnes came in and swooped that title. I love, love, love the background. So perfect for today. Steph, I'm a little disappointed in the two of us. We're usually quicker than that. We could have come up with something cool like that too.
I have to give the kudos to our PTA. They have designed these backgrounds for us.
That is so cool. I love it. All
That
right,
is
let's
awesome.
go ahead.
We're going to ask that our panelists go ahead. We're going to ask that our panelists go ahead and try to keep their cameras on as much as possible. So you will show up at the bottom of everyone's screen. If you're comfortable with that, that would be awesome. We love seeing your smiling faces. Again, this is just a reminder that we tried to pull together, of course, the best in the business, but we are all feel like first year teachers this year. I just wanted to reiterate Miss Lee's advice. If you are joined us and are listening in on this hybrid panel, I encourage you to take out a piece of paper, have a pen ready. You are going to be jotting down great ideas for the next 45 minutes or so. It'll be too many to remember off the top of your head. So definitely have pen and paper ready. Last week I loved one of our panelists was like, oh my goodness, that's awesome. I'm doing it tomorrow. And they did enact it tomorrow. So this is just a collaboration amongst colleagues, and we're all going to learn and grow from each other. All right, first question. Just to give our participants some background, we did meet on Monday just to brainstorm as an active group and go through questions and see who had different experiences that they wanted to add. So we will have several different panelists responding to each question, and we try to hit on everything that we know you guys have questions about. And so the topics The questions will be on a variety of things. The first one up, and want to start off on a positive note, what has been the best part of coming back in the building with students? What has been the best part?
I can speak to that a little bit. So earlier I had said that I have been teaching, this is my 28th year in the classroom. And if I'm really honest, I think more about retirement than I think about anything else. So I was not, I'll be straight up honest, I was not real excited about coming back into the building. It was just hard to wrap my mind around it. But honestly, the best part, and it kind of took me by surprise, I don't know why, was just how excited the kids were to be back in the building. And of course, our sixth graders are new to the building, and we took them on a tour, and they were just over the moon excited. You would have thought that we were spending the week at Disney World or something. And so it really kind of helped me remember why I like being a teacher. And it was just kind of infectious how excited they were. And it was pretty awesome.
No way are you retiring, Miss Williams. I know I said it last time, but I've got a second grader that you'll have to teach. You have my sixth grader this year, and I need you to stick around. She is a phenomenal English teacher. Ms. Barnes, did you want to share what your student said when he got off the bus?
Yes, so I have a student that is on the Applied Studies and VAP program, and he got off the bus and his face just told us why we do what we do as teachers. And he just said, yes. And he was just so excited to be at school. He was engaged. He went home and probably took the longest nap of the day when he got home. But that's why we do what we do. We put in those tireless hours to help and support our students. And all our students do want to be back in the building. I have a student that right now she has to be virtual because of her family members. And she just asks all the time, please talk to my mom. I really want to be back in the building. So I know our students are going through a lot, and just us being there for them, we know that we're there for them.
That is awesome. That is certainly what we want to hear. All right, Mr. Schneider, to wrap up this question, can you share what you talked about? I love, like, when you just know that you've sold that class, you've got them to buy in. What was that phrase? What did you call it?
Yeah, I just call it when you win them over, when they finally, I think from last week, what I talked about last week was that we have to start kind of fresh, earning their love, I guess, not for you, but for your subject. They need to see your passion. And so if they can find a way to see it on your face and in action now that you're back in the classroom, they can start to realize, well, wow, this is why. This makes sense. You know, there was a moment the other week where the kids were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's really, really cool what we're doing. And it's, you know, it doesn't translate over the screen very well sometimes. So I guess the way that applies to this specific question is, yeah, there's kids that actually have come into class and said, I've been waiting a month for this, is what one kid said. I've been waiting a month to get the chance to do this because they don't want to be at home. They want to be at the school too. So that's the best part for me, is the fact that there's kids that actually do want to be in the school with you learning. So yeah, demonstrate your passion and get them to fall for it and see why it is that you love your subject, you know?
Exactly. So whatever your feelings might be, hopefully this hybrid period is a period of rejuvenation for you and your students. The love of learning, love of education, and love of getting back to a school building.
Mr. Schneider gives me chills every time he talks about that question. So let's go ahead and move on. So probably one of the biggest questions that comes up when we talk about this hybrid teaching model is, how in the world do you manage the kids who are in the room and the kids who are home at the same time? What does that look like, and how do you deal with that? Who wants to get us started?
I can get started with that. So as a special ed teacher, this is very challenging because we know we have to give our students their minutes and their service time. So as a SPED teacher, I did see this as the most challenging thing going hybrid.
I did have Paris come to me saying, I'm not getting with my students that are virtual because I'm working with the students that are in person. So we had to think out of the box and see what we could do with the people that are sitting in the class, but also the students that are at home. Because I did have a student says, I'm trying to get in touch with you, but I'm walking around the classroom. So I worked with Will Bennett, and we took out some of our iPads that we have around the school, and we put Teams and Canvas on the iPads. And so I could walk around the class working with my students that are in the virtual learning environment and the students that are in the classroom. So we're working all together at the same time, and I'm not losing one person, that we're all engaged at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Widener, did you have something to add to that too?
Yes. So what I try to do is some of the norms that you did in the virtual, when you were just teaching virtually, you need to keep those in going so that there's some consistency. So what I would do when I was virtually teaching, I would always start off by asking them, you know, does anyone have anything to share? And we would always start every class with just a quick, you know, talking and getting to know each other. And I did the same thing when I started having kids in the classroom. And it was funny because, you know, in the classroom, they're actually raising their hand instead of their virtual hand. And so there's a little bit of problem with feedback. But if you have the kids, what we ended up doing is just having them keep them on mute, and they would tell me the story or whatever they wanted to share. And then I would share it through my screen. But keeping those habits and those conversations and to keep building up those relationships with the kids was a great way to keep, you know, both sides of the house, you know, virtual land and in the classroom together.
That's awesome, Miss Stein. I know we have a lot of teachers wondering about, do we have mixed groups during hybrid? Do we keep the online kids separate? How does that work? Can you share what you've worked out to do some mixed groups in your room?
Sure. I know one of the challenges was to pull a small group when you have some kids in person and then some of the students are at home, and some get small group and some don't. And I tried a couple of different things, and I think what I found that worked for me at least is when the students are going to be doing independent work and you need to pull for a small group, what I was doing was having everybody in the classroom set themselves to available and putting in their headphones, and then I would go to a separate location, sometimes even in the hallway, and I would call in the students like with a Meet Now on Teams, and I would call them in, and I can call in students both from the virtual environment and from directly in the classroom, but none of the students in the classroom knew who was being pulled or not. And then I would just have the students, if they had any questions, just chat in the chat feature of Teams rather than like talking out loud in the classroom with the other students. And that has worked, so far that's worked pretty well for me here at TAB.
That's awesome.
Stephanie, can I jump in here for just a second?
Of course.
Thank you. So I tell the kids I'm like the old lady teacher, right? So they think that's pretty funny, but it's actually really true. So I'm a pretty low tech person. So in my room, all I have is my laptop up on the front table. And I get up and walk around, but I don't have an iPad. I don't have my phone. I have nothing. It's just me. But the kids know that the kids at home know that they can unmute and just say, Miss Williams, and I can hear them. So even if I'm standing at the back of the room, I hear my computer at the front, and then I can say, I just call back to them, hold on, I'll be right there. Just kind of like I would do if we were all together. And that has worked really well for me. So if you're feeling like, oh my God, I can't imagine, having to have, the meeting on the computer, and then I've got an iPad. I mean, I'm able to make it work with just my computer at the front. So for those of you who are worried about that, I think you can definitely make it work without a lot of extra technology.
Thank you, Miss Williams. I was actually going to call you in on that question anyway, because I knew that you had some great ideas and kind of the low tech perspective on that, but it really is working. So I'm glad you jumped in on that one. Thank you.
All right, question 3. What new class norms and procedures did you review before hybrid start or start on the very first day? And is there something now looking back that you're like, oh, wow, I should have definitely gone over it? Talk about that first day with students and what you did prep ahead of time.
One thing that we did at Grafton, the English teachers, and I would absolutely highly recommend this, is that first day back with your first cohort, make that an asynchronous day for all of your remote learners. So that way, the kids, when they come back and they're with you in the room, you can focus 100% on those kids in the room and give everybody else work to do at home. And that way you can just focus on them and not worry about what's going on at home. I started out the very first day, the very first thing we did when they came in was, it's kind of like the first day of school. I had a PowerPoint and we talked all about safety. We talked about why we wear masks, wearing masks, what all the rules were, the procedures were going to be. And I just made that kind of the first thing that we did. And I think that sets the tone and the kids know the expectations. You know, we talk about when why we wear masks, when you may take them off. We talk about social distancing, what that's going to look like. So I think that direct instruction right off the bat it's really worked for me. And so I've had no problems with the kids taking masks off because they know that that's not the procedure.
Exactly. Just being upfront, straightforward, whatever you think about it, don't be nervous, don't be shy, don't be awkward, say the word mask. Like, this is what we have to do to keep everybody safe. And I think that's an awesome idea. So once we get the date for that transition, start talking about it regularly. Totally on board. Miss Lee, did you want to share your, wow, thinking back, I would have done this a little different?
Absolutely. And while I have the mic, I wanted to tag on a shout out for Mr. Dodge. Question 2 was, how do you include both sets of students? And last session, he talked about designating a classroom student as a presenter, maybe one of your mature students. And then that was just a really good idea that I didn't want to miss sharing this time. So Dodge, that was your thunder.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it
sharing
later, but it's okay.
Okay.
Just take it now.
All right. All right, cool. So later, he'll talk about that later. So the suspense will build. One thing that I wish I had done, looking back, is just keeping the main thing. So like the student's first day is a special day, whether it's in September or whether it's whenever it's going to be. And I would encourage you guys, our 7th and 8th grade teachers, that whenever that first day is, take the time to team build, to build relationships, to teach the students who you are as an in-person teacher, because that's going to look different. Teach them about your classroom and just, make the nameplates and do the team building activities. I was very focused on keeping that instruction going, not missing a beat, and even really keeping it the same for my virtual learners as my in-person learners. And looking back, I wish I had done what Miss Williams and the English department did, because they want to know who is in their class. It's a first day for them. It's a special day for them. So I would, kind of not forego entirely, but just repurpose your focus to just making that day really special for students, and do what you would do in September to build relationships and build their team. They haven't been around kids their age for months. So give them the opportunity just to kind of breathe in, the excitement of that first day, even though it will look a little different for them.
That is such great advice. Thank you, Miss Lee, for being so open and transparent about, this is definitely a time of reflecting. This is, again, we've never done anything like this before, so I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. So let's move on to question 4, another hot topic that seems to come up. How do you start class in a way that involves and engages both groups of students? Or do you at all? Mr. Cole, do you want to get us started with this one?
Sure. So one of the things that I found out with teaching in the hybrid model is that you have students at home that are waiting to log in even before the bell rings. They're anxious to get started with class, I guess. So I usually start signing them in as you know, as we're switching classes, and I usually have a warm up up on the screen for them to work on. So it's going to be something that's opinionated, that everyone can answer. There's no right or wrong answer. An example would be, we're talking about exploration right now. One that I recently had was a map with different languages broken up by the counties in the United States, where I didn't realize this. In Louisiana, in the lower part, a lot of people in those counties speak French. And then, of course, in the Southwest, you have a lot of families who speak Spanish. And so there's this map here that they can kind of look at. And so the warm-up question might be, what do you notice about the languages spoken in the certain areas of the country? Just get the students kind of thinking about what we're going to talk about with the Spanish explorers, with the French explorers, et cetera. And so that's up for them to work on. My students who come into the classroom, they see that up on the screen, projected on the screen, and so they then start working on that warm-up question. And so it kind of helps with the transition because you still have students signing in. And so that's been very helpful for.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Miss Lee, you shared some great ideas for this as well. Do you want to talk to us about some of your creative ways to get class started?
Yes. So one of my favorite ways to get students to turn on their camera, I mean, I get it. Like, look at us. Every opportunity, we have to turn the camera off. I am guilty of doing that. So just to get them, to feel like we're all in the same space, whether we're in person or at home, I like to go into together mode. And then, try to get everyone to give each other high five or to dap it out. If you select together mode and then share your screen, it's just a fun way to encourage them and engage them just in a way that, makes us feel like we're all in the same. Look at us. We're all in the same arena. Miss Williams, give me 5. Give me 5. Nice. All right, Miss Bean, let's dap it out up here. It's so fun.
In order
so they love that.
In order to model, I would encourage you all to turn your cameras on for just a quick second. There are 100 of us on this call. It would be so fantastic to see all of these people jump in, and then please try to high five the person next to you or fist bump. Your kids get really into this. This has been really something that has taken hold at Grafton Middle. So everybody try to fist bump, high five, whatever it is you can do. Of course, if you know me and Steph, we are the queens of Twitter. So this picture will end up on Twitter in just a few minutes. But go ahead and high five, turn your camera on.
So fun.
A great little brain break for us here as we are powering through this hour of great ideas. But you can see, even as much as you didn't want to turn your camera on when I said turn your camera on, it really is kind of that engaging push for the kids to see the other faces and to just kind of have a little goofy fun as they get started. So thank you, Miss Lee, for that. That was lots of fun. I'll go back to sharing the real stuff now.
Lori, can I jump in for 1 second?
Absolutely, Miss Williams.
So, kind of going with what Brian was saying, I always start class with a question. And I always do something goofy, usually because I am not prepared like Mr. Cole is with something wonderfully relevant. So I usually will ask a question and then they respond in the chat and then we talk about it. And I find that the kookier the question, the more that gets the kids talking with each other. Like just all of those would you rather questions. Would you rather have, one giant eyebrow or no eyebrows at all? And that really gets the kids, usually I do it in the chat or on Padlet, and then that sparks a lot of conversation and makes us all laugh. So I would recommend that too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hopefully all of our participants got to engage a little bit here in our question. We're going to keep it moving so that we make sure we answer all of our questions today. But stay tuned. There's still lots of fun to be had.
All right. How did you set up the technology in your classroom? That is a big question we hear from all of the teachers that just haven't done it yet. What is working for you and how do you have things set up? Mr. Dodge, do you want to talk about that?
All right, I'll talk about a couple things with this. For my classroom, one thing that I really enjoy is now that I actually have two screens. I know our IICs and our administrators, they usually have two screens, but it is actually nice to have the iStation with the laptop and have two screens to go back and forth. But what I'm going to talk about is setting up your classroom so that your students are able to charge their devices. We all will be encouraging our students to set up our devices the night before, but we know that we will have students that aren't going to do it. And we also know our devices are aging. They may not hold a charge the whole day, and they don't. This is going to become an issue in your classes. There's no way around it. It's going to happen. What you need to do is try to be proactive as best as possible and also work with your students to be as proactive as possible. For my desks, especially with the social distancing aspect, there are desks all the way around the outside of the room, which is where all the outlets are. We were kind enough to get a couple power strips as well to help out with this, but by allowing students to put them around the outside of the room, we can have them charged throughout the day. And be proactive. Have your students to charge their devices, even though they're at 80% or at 90% first thing in the morning. They think, oh, well, I'm good to go for the day. But by the time third block gets here, their devices are now dead. And so we need to really push our students to charge their devices even early on in the day when their devices are, relatively charged, because it'll make a difference as the day goes on. Also, you will have students that you will notice that are going to consistently be having charging issues. You can be proactive as a teacher and reassign a desk or kind of give a desk to that student near where a charging port is. So this shouldn't be hard for you. You have students regularly that are going to have these issues, not only because of technology or because of lack of responsibility in some cases. So try to put them near a port around the outside of the room, and it helps out a lot. That's my big advice there.
For sure. Sometimes students think they can wait to the last second to charge their school device just like they do at home with their phones or their switches or their iPads, but it's just not as convenient. So we're kind of training them to use the ed tech, the school technology for school. Mr. Cole, did you want to talk to us about your command center and how you get that all set up and running?
Sure. So Mr. Dodge probably, he touched on it a little bit where with the iStation having two screens. I have the iStation. My iStation doesn't have a camera hooked up to it. So our principal, Mrs. Goodwin, gave all the teachers student laptops that have the cameras. So I have those kind of situated side by side, and one of my students referred to it as the command center. So I use my iStation for taking attendance. And then I can quickly switch over to Teams and monitor the chat if I need to, where on my laptop, I have my presentation going, and that's where I can communicate with the students. And their voices come out of the speakers. So if you're set up in the classroom, you have your speakers at your iStation, and you turn on your the projector. There is a little catch to it, though. You have to switch it over to Casio. So remember that. you'll have to log into Teams on your settings and switch it over to Casio, so that you can hear the students through the speaker. They can hear you. And so it works for me. I think the hardest part about all of this is standing in front of that monitor while I'm teaching. But again, that's only 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'm roaming around the room. If I need to grab an iPad to roam as well, I can do that. So, I mean, it works. It's not what I'm most comfortable with, but it works for me. It works for my students at home. It works for my students in the classroom.
For sure, a new type of normal. So hopefully you had your pen or pencil ready and you wrote down that tip that you'll want to remember the first time you try to do this from your classroom.
I hope you are all A, ready to write down some great tips, and B, ready for a little bit of a chuckle, because this is by far my favorite question, only because of our fabulous panelists. But talk to us about your cleaning procedure. Obviously, you know, we know that we're going to spray down desks, we're going to wipe them down, but how does this work? How in the world am I going to monitor the hallway and keep my kids, you know, out of trouble and get my next group of kids in and clean everything? Miss Williams, you want to talk about this one?
Yes, I would love to. I swear this is my greatest achievement so far this school year, is being able to clean my classroom. So I am very proud to announce that I can clean, disinfect 22 desks in under 3 minutes. And I am extremely proud of this. Before we went back with the hybrid model, I was like, I got so stuck on this. I'm like, how in the world am I going to be able to clean all these desks? You should see my house. I mean, this is not me at all. So, but the reality is it's no big deal. What we do is we have 7 minutes of a transition time. I have the kids stand up. They spread out around the perimeter of the room. We talk about having our arms out. You know, you shouldn't be able to touch anybody. I just go around, I just spray everything. We have gloves we wear, and then I come back and I wipe it all down. I hit their chairs, and it's easy breezy, and I'm so proud of myself. I will say, is Rob here? Did Rob ever show up? I don't think he did.
No,
he got stuck in something else, okay. So I don't think he made it.
So one hack that you have to have, because this, being an old lady teacher, like this is essential for me. When I first started cleaning desks, the kids are all lined up, and I can't remember if someone sat in that desk or if they didn't sit there, because my room's not always full, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So for the first week, I'm cleaning desks that don't even need to be cleaned, which is crazy. So now what I do is I tell the kids, don't push your chairs in. So I know someone was sitting at that desk, which is so crazy. And the kids think it's hilarious. They're like, what teacher says don't push your chair in? But that's how I know which desks I need to clean. But I swear I cleaned so many desks that didn't need to be cleaned the first week that it was just insane. So that's just my little hack for cleaning. And it's
I think it's really taken off at Grafton and York Middle after Nellie shared that. We did a little school-based panel, and that was definitely one of the biggest hacks and tips taken from that as well.
And that's why they call her the Queen of Clean. I wonder if she'll get a Christmas present this year with that name on it.
That's so fantastic. Ms. Widener, do you want to talk about how this is working at TAB?
You're muted.
Sorry. So what we do is when we dismiss our kids, we shut the door after the kids have cleaned, then we clean. But once we dismiss them, an administrator stands in our hallway, and our kids walk a big loop. That's 7 minutes, and it's a definite path all the way down the hallway, all the way up, and all the way around, and they just keep walking until you're ready. And what you do is you go to your door, you open your door, and that's the sign that says you're ready to receive your students. So some classes, are taking a little bit longer, but some kids, you're done quicker. So you just open your door. That's the sign for the kids to walk in, and it works out really nicely for our kids. And if you take longer to clean your room, the kids are supervised, and it all works out really nicely for everybody.
that is an awesome plan that is working, I want to say flawlessly at Tab Middle. Their 6th grade is all on one hallway. And so that obviously took a lot of creative thinking from their admin team, and we're so happy that is working out for them. This is probably going to be one of those situations that you want to check with your building admin and your fellow teachers. But I think, the point Ms. Widener's making is it's about teamwork. And so you're going to have to find people on your hallway, on your team, to help make this cleaning routine a success for you all. So whether you're doing it individually, like Ms. Williams shared, or if you're working with the team to get it done, that's awesome. So cleaning is, a brand new task for teachers, well, to some extent. And so definitely don't be afraid to ask for help, ask teammates if you want to collaborate to get the job done. We've got to all be there for each other at this time. All right, we are almost in the home stretch. We got about 15 minutes left and just a couple questions. Of course, as the IIC, this is one of my favorites. What EdTech tools have been the most beneficial, especially moving into this hybrid session? Mr. Dodge, you want to talk about what you've got going on?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple things with this. The biggest thing with technology before I get to the tools is try to get a system that works for you. The biggest thing that we were talking about earlier, Mr. Cole, I think mentioned it, is you're going to have students trying to get online from home when you're not in front of the computer. And so this presents a big issue. So before this even happens for you, talk to your students. All right. There are going to be times when you are not in front of your computer. You're in the hallway helping a student because it's their first day ever in the building. You are going to be doing things to help other students. You may be even still cleaning your room. So talk to your students that there may be some lag time with it, and talk about that, because there are 7 minutes between classes in the building because we're cleaning. Well, at home, they don't have that cleaning going on. So, set the expectation that you're going to be in there, try to be patient kind of thing with them. One of the things that I do to help me with this, as Ms. Lee said earlier, I set a student presenter. So I, with a student in the classroom, at the very beginning of each class, I pick a student, usually one of our best behaved students, as you get to know them the first couple days, and then you can kind of go from there. But students that will allow other students into the class. So I make that student a presenter, and now they have control to help me out. They can monitor their chat for me. They can allow students into the classroom for me while I'm doing other things when I'm not at my computer the whole time, because the students are at their desk for the majority of the time in front of their computers. And so that one student can then control my lobby for me as students get kicked out and are trying to get back into the class. That really helps out. It's a really big tip. As far as tech tools, I'm loving Nearpod. I know a lot of our teachers at Grafton Middle School are using Nearpod, as they are at other schools as well. Even in this virtual environment and hybrid model, I'm still using Nearpod because the students are comfortable with it. And when things like this week happen, and now we're back in the virtual setting, we haven't shifted back and forth. I didn't want to make a mass confusion of we're going to switch to go this and then back to this. I just kept it all the same. So I'm still using Nearpod. I'm still using GimKit. I'm excited for GimKit. They're coming out with GimKit Inc. in January, which I believe is going to be more of a paper version of it. I do a lot of games in my classroom. I don't, I like to review a lot with games versus some worksheets and stuff like that. So I try to do a lot of things online with that to try to make it fun for them. Games like Kahoot, but GimKit has been my go-to for that. But Nearpod for lessons has been phenomenal. And that's, make a student a presenter and try to embrace Nearpod if you can. And those are two really big tech tips I can help you out with.
I love all of those ideas, Mr. Dodge. Nearpod is like my #1 go-to tool. I know Grafton High School just took off running. Every content area can use it. Use it synchronous, asynchronous. It is fantastic. And Twitter is my favorite PLN. And so I saw on Twitter early this morning when I couldn't sleep that GimKit actually has a new version or a new application that it's similar to Among Us. So I know you are a GimKit king. And so that's another tip you can write down just to freshen it up, make it new, make it different for your kids. GimKit is definitely one that they love. And I know some of my high school teachers are probably thinking like, really, a student assistant, a job, like that's so elementary. believe it or not, the big kids still love it. So it's something that we're used to teams now. The kids are used to the lobby. They understand the chat. Like, let them help, bring them in. And it is perfectly acceptable to ask one of them to, work on the lobby and let you know when things are going on in the chat. So that is a fantastic tip. One of my favorites that Mr. Dodge shared with us last week. Ms. Williams, do you want to talk about your favorite tool?
Yes, I love Padlet. And Padlet is it's so easy to use, so easy to set up. And I use it all the time. You can embed it into Canvas. And the kids, we use it every single day. And it's just a great discussion where the kids are all typing and you see it live. It kind of populates as they're typing. They can comment on each other's. We use that all the time. And I'm very jealous because, Stephanie, I think you said that at Grafton High School, you guys have the paid version.
We do. We're really blessed. My teachers use it a lot. Our awesome principal, Whitney Cataldo, worked it out in her budget. So if it's something you're using, definitely talk to your admin. They might be able to find the funds, and definitely talk to your IIC. That might be something, if the division as a whole is using it, because it is such an easy tool, maybe we can look at that in the next fiscal year budget. But but Nellie talks about she uses it with her students. She's got them trained very well on how to identify themselves, but that school paid version is really nice for sure.
Tiana, you direct that email to Steph when we get 1,000 requests at Grafton Middle for the paid Padlet. I am not going down for Steph telling them to ask for that one.
Oh, yes, I will send that directly to her.
I almost texted. We're about to get a text from Tiana. Lord, you telling her to spend money on tech?
Miss Anthony is rolling in the money. I know she's got it. She'll do anything to help her teachers out for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's how Steph and Lori got fired after the 10 a.m. panel. So let's keep moving. We've had some great advice and some great strategies. And as we dive into this one, I think it's important for us to remember that this is still new. I mean, we have only been doing less than a month. You throw in a holiday and a couple days off. It has really not been all that long that we've been in this hybrid model. So talk to us about paras and co-teachers. What does this look like in your classroom?
So at Queens Lake, what I did was we assigned every para a location in the school where they would go for small group instruction. So you have to be proactive and make sure this is done in advance so everyone knows what location they're in, definitely for cleaning purposes also, so we don't overlap. So everyone has a designated area in the school for small group instruction. And then also an academic lab, because you don't want to forget you do have kids in the classroom, but you don't want it to be like they're still virtual sitting in the classroom. So you want to make it a little different for those students also. So I did make them teachers, like Aaron was saying, and they were presenters. So they would do breakout groups. So they would all be in small groups with kids that are virtual. And we did an escape room activity. So they would share their screens and they became teachers from the classroom. So I could walk around and see the small groups. So I might have had 3 kids in the class that were being teachers, but then they had 2 kids online. So I was able to see what all the students were doing at the same time by breaking into small groups and the students in the classroom sharing their screens and doing the activity. So they really like the escape rooms.
Escape rooms are so much fun and a great way to engage on lots of different levels. Ms. Stein, do you have something you'd like to add in on this one?
Well, one thing that has worked well with the co-teachers that I teach English with is that they share the Neopods or the Kahoots that they've made, and I will generate a separate code for them and I'll pull my small group. So for example, like for some of the Kahoot games that we play, I might slow down the timers so that students have more time, or adjust the game to meet the needs of the students so that they can answer the questions without feeling too rushed. And then also it's not always like the same kids winning the game. It's just a smaller group with more adjusted time. And with the Nearpod, we do the same thing. And I might pull a group, start the same Nearpod, but with a separate code so that I could pace it differently, more appropriately for the group of students that I'm working with.
What an awesome idea. I love that. I hope that there are pens and pencils scribbling down that one, because that is a fantastic idea. Thank you for sharing that one.
Lori, can I say one thing about this?
Sure, Nellie.
So this is an area, I think it's hard. At least it's hard for me. You know, I have one inclusion class. I have an awesome special educator who I work with, and this is really a work in progress. You know, so from the time when we started back, you know, I think the most important thing was just communication between her and me, and trying to figure this whole thing out, and know that, like, we don't always have all the answers to everything, and we're still trying to figure, you know, how to make this work. I love the ideas that were just suggested, but know that this is probably an area, at least for me, that is still kind of a work in progress.
I thank you so much for being so open about that. There's definitely still areas to grow. If you had it all figured out after 3 weeks of hybrid teaching, you could make a lot of money selling books. So it's great to hear that we're making progress in this area, but it's still an area for growth. So another area for open collaboration as well. So thank you for sharing that, Nellie.
All right, so one of the things that every good teacher has to consider right away is classroom interactions and classroom management and setting those norms and procedures. And it's important all the time to keep that safe learning environment, but it is even more important during a global pandemic to set those, you know, kind of safety procedures, masks, social distancing. Are kids just saying, no, I won't wear it? Like, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm kind of hoping, you know, that that's not the case, but we want to hear from the people that have been there, done that. Who wants to talk about these classroom interactions and how it's being managed? I
can start, if that's okay. I think a lot of this is one of my biggest fears coming into the school is safety. And I had a lot of reservations about coming into the building and how this is going to work. And you can already picture those kids in your head that you think is going to like lick their hand and go touch somebody and stuff like that. And you're already talking about it. You know, those are all the biggest fears that everybody had. But to be honest, it's been, from what I've experienced at Grafton Middle School, has been amazing. I think the expectations, we all set the same expectations. Usually with various rules around the school, can you have food in the classroom, gum, candy? We all have our own little takes on this. With the mask thing, with the safety issue, the social distancing, all these protocols, there's no wiggle room. We are all doing it. We are all on board with it. And the students see that. And we establish that from day one. Before we even get into the building, these are established, right? I know even talking with parents and things like that, from the athletic side of it, they don't, you know, everybody has their own thoughts and beliefs on it. And that's fine. And we respect those thoughts and beliefs. But while they're at the school, they will be abiding by our expectations, and just setting those expectations with the students early and often, it works great. And to be honest, a lot of the students and the parents have the same reservations that we do. And the students want each other wearing masks, and the students are going to help you out with that in a lot of cases. If they see a student without a mask on or getting a little close, they'll say something. Usually they'll, you know, it's not a confrontational thing. They'll make a joke about it, and everybody sees what's going on. You know, you're just trying to draw attention to the fact that, hey, put your mask on. And it works really, really well. And it's gone really well for us at Grafton Middle School. And I think a lot of things is just communicate, and don't be scared to. Don't be scared of this. We are enforcing these guidelines, and they are going to be enforced, and there's no other way we're going to go around it. And just set those expectations. And I know some of the other panelists are going to talk about breaks and stuff like that, so I'll let them do that. But just don't be afraid of the topic. Don't be afraid of addressing it with them, and set those expectations early and often, so that way you have a safe learning environment in your classroom.
I love that. That's real talk from Mr. Dodge. I can totally appreciate that. Ms. Stein, do you want to talk about what you have going on in your classroom, what you did physically actually to set it up for success?
Sure. Well, as you know, like we had to move all the desks, so they're 6 feet apart, and And in my room, as well as the rooms that I teach in, and some of the teachers got pretty elaborate with it, it's nice. They made arrows on the floor to show students which way to move, and then you mark off where each desk needs to be so that students know like kind of where they're supposed to be as far as like if the desk gets moved, you know, you have that boundary, so they do stay that 6 feet apart. And that's been, those visual cues have been really, really helpful for students as far as like knowing where their space is.
And also just using painter's tape is what we did at TAB, is just marking the floor for your own, you know, when you're cleaning or desks get shifted just a little bit, you've already measured out your desks, you know, pretty painstakingly that they're 6 feet apart. So I just put like a real quick strip of tape. So I know that when, you know, I'm at the end of the day or between classes, I know exactly where my front legs need to be. So, you know, it makes it easy to put your room back in order. And then piggybacking off of, you know, eating lunch with your kids has been actually a blessing. It's been really fun because that is when they get to take their masks off and eat. And it's been a great time for us to get to know each other even more. And that's where you're going to have some issues because, again, you're more relaxed. And so there's going to be that instinct for them to want to get up and walk over to a friend and talk. But it's like, okay, you got to stay in your seat. You got to stay 6 feet apart. And just that little bit of a reminder. They're like, oh, immediately they're like, oh my gosh, I completely, you know, whoops, you know, and they go right back. And so really, we've had no issues with, you know, being, you know, defiant or anything like that. It's more of they're going to need some quick reminders. But for the most part, everyone's been very, very compliant with wearing their mask and understanding the social distancing.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. We know it's 11 o'clock. If you have to sign off, we understand, but we have one last question and we wanted to end on a super high note, super positive. So like, what is the feedback then? What are the kids saying? I know Grafton Middle actually did a Padlet to hear from their students and collect those thoughts and ideas. Not sure if any of the other schools, or if you just want to share some personal experiences. What are the kids saying? What makes it worth it?
They love it. And I will say this, that I had some kids that were in virtual, when we were in virtual, did no work at all and just sat there. And, you know, I conferenced with one girl and she's crying. I hate this online, learning online. You know, she's back in the building, complete game changer. You know, she's engaged, she's getting her work done. She's picking up on what we're teaching, you know, what we're learning about. And it's just been a game changer for a lot of these kids that now that they're in the building, I think school is more real to them. And they just have that desire to, you know, the spark to really try. And you know, I definitely have seen some kids change their attitude towards school since they've come back.
I'll jump on there as well. I've done some surveys in my classroom. I do them fairly often, and students, they've loved it. They've loved being back in the building. They're very happy. And one of the things, like she just mentioned, is, you know, in the virtual environment, this is hard for the students as well. And some of those students that have not been doing very well, that we thought maybe they just hate school, so they're not going to do anything. That's not the case. They're struggling like some of us as teachers are with certain things. And so they are excited to be back in the building. They're excited to get the help that they wanted, and, you know, to see a warm breathing body that's actually teaching them versus somebody in front of a screen, which is, you know, so fake to the students in some cases. They think they can hide behind a screen, but in the building, they're loving being there. They're excited, they're happy, and they're doing a phenomenal job with it.
We want to thank you all, our panelists, for coming and sharing on this topic. We know that there is lots of anxiety about the idea of coming back in hybrid, and the opportunity to learn from kind of your baptism by fire has been really helpful for many of us. I would encourage you, there is a form in the chat. We would love some feedback. This is definitely a that this was a big undertaking, trying to make sure we could make this meaningful for you. So the feedback is anonymous. It is through forms, but we have it set so it doesn't record your name. If you could just give us some feedback on how you felt about this format and the things that you heard today, it would be very much appreciated. If you would like to get your PD points for attending today from Frontline, please see your PL team in Microsoft Teams, and there's information there. And I would encourage anyone who is still here and still listening, please, if you found today helpful and beneficial, send an email to your colleagues. We can, promote it. We can send out all the info that we want, but just like this forum itself, this panel, hearing from hearing from their colleagues, that knowing that this was a meaningful experience, that's really where the power comes in this. So if you got anything out of this at all today, please take just a minute, send an email to your teacher tribe, the teachers on your hallway, those who you eat lunch with, whoever it may be in your building or across the division, send them an email and let them know that we are here again at 2 o'clock doing the same show. But just trying to spread this good word to all of our teachers. We are so grateful that you all came and spent some time with us this morning. And please have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see our panelists again at 2. Can't wait for it. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. This was so awesome.